On this episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive, it's time to modify my Fiesta after 2 short weeks of ownership, but it's not with the modification that you might think. Today, I'm going to show you how to put a hitch on your Fiesta. What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive. Now, I've only owned this car for 2 weeks, but I've been absolutely loving it. The Fiesta ST is fun to drive. I've been getting pretty decent fuel economy, even though I've been blowing the tires off first and second. And I think it's time to modify this, but I'm not quite gonna dive into performance modifications yet. There's a couple reasons for that. First, as I already mentioned, this thing likes to blow the tires off first and second gear as is. Now, granted, it does have some summer-only tires that I'm running in the winter, so that probably has something to do with it. They have a hard time hooking up when it's below 35 degrees like it is today. But outside of that, I think it has pretty good power as is. I don't really want to make the torque steer any worse than it already is. I'll probably still end up putting performance modifications on it. Who am I kidding? I'll probably do a Cobb tune. But for today, I really wanted to dive into putting a hitch on this thing because it's about to be mountain biking season and I want to be able to transport my bike easily. So I like to put a hitch on my cars. I don't really like roof racks because it's just a pain to get in and on and off the car. So I bought this draw tight hitch online, and I wanted to do a video because I think it's kind of slick how they've design these to be put on the car really easily. You know, the back frame of the car doesn't have any studs or anything like that that you can just put nuts through and secure this, but they come up with kind of a interesting option for doing that, which is what I kind of wanted to show. I'll show you guys how to do it, and then I'll give you that sweet shot at the end where my mountain bike is sitting on the back of my Fiesta and I'm ready to go for the riding season. So it's cold out here, let's get going. Here we are underneath the car now. The first thing that we're gonna have to do is secure this exhaust because I need to take the hangers off, and that is because we need to trim this heat shield over here. So I'm gonna take this heat shield off, but before I do that, I'm gonna take these bungee cords, wrap it around the exhaust, just because I don't want to damage the exhaust by just letting it hang there. So I'm gonna wrap these bungee cords around, and then we'll take off these little bolts and take this heat shield off so we can trim it. Now, as you might be able to see on these exhaust hangers here, I've already sprayed them with some silicone lube. They come out way easier that way once you lube them up. All you really have to do here is use leverage to your advantage. Take a screwdriver and just pry it up against the surface, and you can pop it out like so. I got that exhaust hanger off, and now you can see there's 1, 2 up there, and then behind this muffler there's a 3rd bolt that you have to remove to get that heat shield off, so I'm going to do that now. They are 10mm bolts. With those 3 bolts out, you can basically just remove the heat shield out the back of the car, and then we'll take it to the bench to trim it. And when I say bench, I mean my driveway. There you go. Now that my heat shield is trimmed, I'm gonna stick it back in here, and I will attach it with the 2 fasteners that are still left on this thing, and then we can actually finally install the hitch itself. So this is the part where I think they've gotten sort of clever. Ultimately, we're gonna be securing the hitch to these 2 holes right here. Now, as you can see, they're just open holes, but that's where they've gotten clever with the hardware. So what they do is they supply you with a couple things. They give you this sort of almost fishing wire type stuff, and then they give you this bolt, and then I'm not even sure what to call this, sort of a squared washer. But what you're supposed to do is thread the bolt on this fishing wire, as I'll do now, and you can see it running on there, on that fishing wire. So you thread that on there, and then you run this spacer down on that wire. So now you have this situation where you can stick this up in those holes in the car, and then when you pull it through, See how this has a square on it right there? This is like a ridge. Basically, it locks in there, and then this can't turn. You're basically giving yourself a stud that you can secure the hitch to. So I'll show you guys what it looks like when you put it in the car. So here's how this is gonna go. I'm going to thread this bolt up here first, and then I can thread this spacer up there second, independent of that bolt. Now all I do is pull it down. See that? And I can untwist this wire as long as I don't poke myself in the eye. So now I have a stud up there that is stuck in this in that spacer with the square, and I'll be able to fasten a nut to that, which will secure the hitch. So I think that's pretty clever. Now how they secure the front bolt is also pretty interesting. So this is, I'm not even sure what the hell they call this, but it's basically a nut welded to this rod. What you're supposed to do is put it up to these two holes here, sort of measure it, so that should be right about where it should be sitting, and then I'm going to bend this right about here. So I'm going to bend this down, and you'll see what I've created is I can put this up here, and now I have a nut up there ready to receive a bolt that is also supplied with the kit. So once again, really cool how they're like doing it within this frame here that otherwise you wouldn't have any access to. They give you these interesting ways of securing fasteners too. So now that I have that stuff up there, I can actually put the hitch up, and for that I'm going to need a friend's help, but I don't have any friends, so we're going to do it by ourselves. So now what I'm going to attempt to do, at least, is slide this in a careful balancing act over the exhaust. Get more angle, there we go. Over the exhaust, around the hanger. Really all you're doing here is trying a balancing act of holding up the hitch with your knees and then trying to secure the fasteners with the extra hand that you basically don't have. Or you could just get a friend to help you. By some miracle, I think that actually worked. Alright, cool. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is torque these down. Now mine specifically says to go to 50 foot-pounds, and for whatever reason they decided to make each of these a different size. So one of them is 18 and one of them is 19. I have no idea why they decided to do that, but I'm just going to set my torque wrench here, and then we can go ahead and torque these down. And boom, there you go guys, that is it. That is a wrap for this episode of Eat Sleep Drive. I'm super pumped with now the fact that I can actually carry my bike, because it doesn't fit in this car at all. But like I said guys, absolutely loving this car. There are going to be some performance modifications that come, so stay tuned. I'm thinking probably starting with an intake, just because I want some more induction noise. This little turbo makes pretty hilarious noises for a small car. But yeah, now we can go mountain biking and drive in style. But appreciate you guys watching. Stick around guys. My LS Swap 240 is coming out of hibernation soon, so there'll be some more exciting videos to come. But as always, appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next time.